Let's start this tutorial taking a look at the test environment landscape, and then we'll take a look at the application that we're targeting for testing. And then we'll come back to this environment to actually see the test script and execute the test script. All right, let's take a look over in the file settings. Here is where under Python interpreter, we can see the various packages that have been installed to go along with what we need to do our testing. First of all, we do have Python. It's installed 3.8, actually 3.8.3, and we're pointing to that. It's a part of the virtual environment, and the environment we're in is called PyCharm. PyCharm is an IDE, and it is capable of supporting Robot Framework as well as Python. And so we're using the two together. And we also have Selenium Library. We can see that and confirm that by scrolling down into these packages that have been installed in this environment. And we can see some for Robot Framework, and we also see Robot Framework Selenium Library. As well, we see Salesforce and Simple Salesforce. So those all play a part in providing us what we need in order to use Robot Framework to test Salesforce applications. All right, let's come out of there. And as I said, before we take a look at this script and execute it, we'll go and take a look at the application that we're targeting. Let me bring that up. And here we are. So now what you're seeing is the home page, basically, for Salesforce, one of the applications. And this one is called Sales. If we click on this button here, we'll see a pull-down menu, and we can select other than Sales, Service Console, Lightning Usage App, and Salesforce CMS. And while I'm here, let me mention that you can take a look at Salesforce yourself with a trial version, and there are two different trials, one known as the Salesforce Essentials free trial, which is what we're looking at now, the home page, and there's another called the CRM free trial Salesforce for 30-day trial. So one's a 30-day trial and the other is a 14-day trial. And you can see I'm almost out. I have one more day left on this trial. If I had gone with the CRM free trial Salesforce, that would be a 30-day trial. And that one we see listed here, Salesforce CMS. So, but it is two different applications within Salesforce. So, enough on that. I also will provide you with links to these trials at the bottom of the screen, or at least one link that will point you to my website, which will then show you what you need to know to set up and move forward with testing Salesforce or getting familiar with Salesforce. All right, so again, here is the application home page for Sales, and we see a menu bar across the screen, and we also see an icon bar up in the right top corner. The most common functions is this setup, which is a gear icon, and the view profile icon, which allows you, when you click on it, it displays another window and provides you with two primary functions, one for settings, which goes along with setup, and logout. So when you log into the screen, you've seen it, the home page is what we come to, and we can log out from the home page using this logout link. And that's what we're going to test is, excuse me, logging in to Salesforce, Sales, and then logging out. A simple test, but important test to make sure that security is working properly. We're providing it with what we think is good user credentials, and we're then wanting to make sure that we can get out of the application successfully. All right, so that's a little on getting familiar with the application. We're not going to go much further on that, although I'll say this, be aware that with this menu bar, you have a number of functions that are lower level functions that can be processed, such as leads. If you're familiar with a sales application, especially a sales CRM application, we have leads that can be processed, created, and managed, accounts, contacts, opportunities, cases, tasks, calendar, events, reports, as well as a dashboard, an additional lower level dashboard for the processes. Okay, we've talked about the application a little bit. We should know enough to log in, log out. Well, let's just go here, and we're actually going to click on the log out so that we leave the application, and we're going to return to the login page. So when you start up your application with a URL for Salesforce, you're going to see a login screen that looks like this. You will enter username and password and click the login button. And then we'll see the home page, and once we are ready, we'll log out of the home page. So let's see how that plays out in Salesforce, in Robot Framework, the test script tool. We'll go back to the PyCharm environment. And again, this is our test environment. And we have a script that I called Salesforce login logout.robot. This is the start of that particular script. And we see in Robot Framework, this is not necessarily a lesson so much on Robot Framework, but be aware we have a settings section, a variables section, and a test case section, and finally a keywords section of the script. The only thing that's not in this file physically is this particular file, which has some variables. It just has a variables section that defines some variables that we consider sensitive information, the login credentials. And that's why I put this little caption here to let you know. And there is an alternative to this. This is one way to prevent anyone from seeing the actual login credentials that are considered sensitive data, especially the password and the URL. And that information could be encrypted and decrypted by this crypto library that could be added, just like this statement on line 4. We could say library, crypto library. That one is not installed here, but I want you to know that it is available. Not sure how recent it is, but it is available and can be used for data encryption and data decryption. Now, we're using this method of just creating a file that has some variables defined in it, and we cannot see it in this environment. Even though it's in the folder, it's not visible to us. And when we see the test results, it will also not be information that can be seen like everything else. Now, next thing. Of course, we have the Selenium Library. All the keywords we're using are from there. And we have a test setup and test teardown feature in use, where we're pointing to a particular keyword function called begin web test and another one called end web test. And for those who may not be that familiar with robot framework keywords, these two have to do with the start of the test and the end of the test. What will happen at the start of the test setup, and what will happen at the end of the test teardown. Then we have the variables that we've defined that are not sensitive information. We have a few XPath locator values identified here, one for the username, the password, the login button, the menu home button that you saw on the menu bar. And finally, we have two more, one having to do with that image, that's the icon image that's labeled view profile. And then we also have the logout, the link itself, that we can click on that logout link and shut down the application. All right, so let's look at what is it going to take. Does the test case look like? And here is the name of it, Test Salesforce SOI App Login. We're starting with just a wait for 3 seconds, and then we are going to execute enter credentials and submit. That's the user credentials. And we're going to wait until the menu bar home button is displayed. So we're going from the login page and we're displaying the home page, and we want to make sure that that home button is visible. If it's visible, we consider the entire page to be visible. All right, so that's the actual test case process. Don't forget that we started with begin web test and we end with end web test. And so we have 3 keyword functions that we're processing. The first one is begin web test. It has to do with opening the browser, passing the URL for Salesforce, and identifying that we're using the Chrome browser. And then we're maximizing that window so that it encompasses the entire monitor window. And we're stopping and waiting for 1 second, just a pause. As the final process is concerned, we start with a wait. We then move on to setting a focus on the view profile icon over in the right top corner of the home page. And we're going to do something interesting here. A mouse over, mouse down, and mouse up for that same position or that locator, the view profile icon image. And that is like a click of that image. Then we're going to again wait to see another, not variable, but element to be visible. And that is for that pop-up window to display and show that log out link. So we're giving it time. The time is up to 10 seconds to wait for that to become visible. If it's visible, we assume the entire pop-up window is visible. And we capture that screenshot just to confirm it in our test results. Also in our test results, we do another test or detection test for that element, icon bar logout. We do page should contain element. So that's similar to wait until element is visible. Do we need both? No. One is sufficient, but I'm using these to see and show their ability. And then we're actually doing a log keyword to take the value that's received from that test and display it. Then we do yet another detection keyword, set focus to element, same element, logout. And then finally, we press keys with return. That is like clicking on that option or clicking on that link. And then finally, we do a close browser. Now, one more keyword function. We mentioned enter credentials and submit. So this is the process that will actually supply the user credentials when Salesforce is on the login page, and we clear the text. We then input the text for the username and for the password. And notice we're using, instead of input text, we're using a keyword called input password. And so that will cause no information to be displayed for that in the test results. So we will still not be able to see the password. And then finally, we'll click the submit button. Now, there is another click here, and the only reason for that is sometimes there are pages that will pop up unexpectedly, and this is a way clicking in an open area to just cause that to disappear or cause that pop-up to disappear if necessary. So it's there. It may or may not be useful all of the time, but in some cases it can help. Be aware of that. That happens in some applications from time to time. Now, so we have looked at this script. We understand now the test case itself is going to start with getting the browser up and the application at the login page. Then we're going to use the user credentials to log in. And then finally, we're going to go through the process of ending that login to Salesforce and actually log out. All right, so over here, we'll click here, robot -D. I want to put it in the results folder that I have over here, right here. And then we're going to mention the name of the script, Salesforce _login logout .robot. That is the statement we need in order to execute the script. And so here we go. And we should see the actual screens as they come up and are populated. Momentarily, we'll see the user credentials. And now we're going to the home page. Here we are. We see the home page like we saw before. We have the menu bar across the screen, the icon bar. Sorry, it went away on us. And we see down here in this statistics information that it has passed. Now, I want to point out something that you might see using Python as your test environment. You might see 3 to 4 statements that display here, And this information, you can look it up on Google, and you'll find that a number of people have responded to this, saying that this has to do with a problem with the Chrome web browser. And so that's the reason that information is coming out. It does not prevent the script from executing successfully, but it is a problem, and there are several people that have outputted some information or have come forward with some information that they say helped resolve the problem for them. But so far, I've tried those, and those have not resolved this problem. So I'm expecting in the next release, or by the time the next release rolls out and I upgrade to that new web driver, then this problem should be resolved. At the moment, I'm not concerned about it. It doesn't seem to affect the outcome of the test. So that's a good thing. And speaking of the outcome, we'll go ahead and look at the report HTML, which is up here. I will expand that. Report HTML. We'll go down to Open in Browser. I'm going to use the Chrome browser. And we see green. That's always a good sign. We're going to drill down to the detail. And so we see a nice clean output here because of the way that the script was designed. So we have, first of all, the setup, begin web test, and we have the teardown, end web test. And in the middle, we have the enter credentials and submit, and we have the wait until element is visible, the home button. All right, we can expand each of these. We expand the setup. We see the open browser and maximize browser window. Everything passed. If we open up the keyword for enter credentials, we see all of the statements within that keyword function. Click element and clear element. Input text, input password. Notice that we don't see the password like the input text. We see the input text, which was the user name. Okay? And we click the button, and finally we waited until that button was visible. And we then have the teardown, all of the keywords that were processed within it, the set focus, the mouse, keywords, and wait until element is visible. We captured the screen, and we scroll down. We see that that pop-up window became visible, and we could then click on logout. And what else do I want to show you? We have the press keys, and it sent the key, or the return key, like pressing the enter key, and it was focused on the logout element. And so that was processed successfully, and we closed the browser. Now, go back to PyCharm, the test environment. As I said, so we now have the report, showed us good. The statistics here in the terminal area showed us that it passed. We had a good execution of this particular script, and all we did was logged in and logged out and closed the browser. Thank you for your time.